The High Court sitting in Igboshere, Lagos Island, has ordered all banks to disclose all investments traceable to Imagine Global Holding Company Limited.
I was a relationship manager in banks that, you just tell them what you do and they believe in you. They just trust you as a person and they invest in you.
Ajetunmobi, they've absconded with customers 22 billion naira.
In 2017, a couple started a micro-lending and financial technology business. In the business, they promised that small and medium-sized businesses will get access to quick, easy loans specifically to market women, traders, and entrepreneurs without the stiff conditions of banks. And their branding was very perfect. In fact, they were showing videos of them giving out loans to market women, traders, and owners of small businesses in the country. And their claim was that they are changing lives by giving loans to people one loan at a time. And they went about speaking at tech events, expos, and business seminars as guest speakers. However, little did we know that they actually orchestrated one of the biggest financial scams that actually happened in the history of Nigeria. You see, they claim that they provide investment banking, advisory, and money lending and brokerage services in Nigeria and in Africa. And they claim to have received about 20 billion naira from high-yield investors in order for them to launch this particular company. Now, part of the objectives of this particular business is that they help investors to invest in series of investments such as real estate investments, bonds, treasury bills, stocks, and equities. Because they have series of well-trained investors who are skilled and will specifically trade good investment for you, and you'll be able to get your return every single month. Apart from the fact that they lend money out to the public, they have also invited people and corporations to invest in this their business, and they promise them 10% return every single month on any amount they deposit as capital. So approximately, you are going to be getting 100% of your investment every year if you get 10% return every single month. And that was their claim when they started the company. Now, their pitch was this: give us your money, invest in our business, and we are going to be giving out and lending money to small businesses, traders, market women who are going to be giving us daily returns. Now, once they give us daily returns, we'll be paying you interest of your investment every single month at 10%. Or you give us your money and your money will be invested in several investments such as real estate, stock market, equities, treasury bills, and bonds, and they're going to be giving you 10% of your investment every single month. And that was actually the strategy of their business. However, the co-founder, Mr. Bamise, worked as an employee of Zenith Bank before, and so he leveraged on that particular role as a former Zenith Bank employee to build trust among his peers and co-workers, especially in the banking sector. He built trust among bank managers, financial professionals, and people in the corporate world to actively invest in the business. Through his networking relationship with his fellow bankers, he was able to convince about 21 banks and fintech companies in Nigeria to invest and give him soft loans to run that particular company. Now, a lot of bank officials that had already gained trust from started informing their customers that comes to the bank to begin to invest in a particular company because their former staff member started a new business that will get you 10% return every month of your investment. In fact, it got to a point that Zenith Bank staff were practically promoting the company at their workplace to customers. And the reason was basically because he needed the validation of Zenith Bank staff to convince investors that it's genuine. And so he offered a mouth-watering salaries to Zenith Bank staff, a salary they couldn't resist. And once that happened, a lot of Zenith Bank customers moved from Zenith Bank and started investing in this particular company. They also decided to build credibility by involving and associating with powerful figures in the country like top Nigerian celebrities, influencers. They even pay some celebrities to endorse them publicly to further trick the public that they are genuine. In fact, there were rumors that they strategically became close allies with some top influential pastors in Nigeria, including churches like Elevation Church and Daystar Ministries. And some of these pastors even worked as consultants in his companies to educate some of his employees on how to actually relate with customers and how to actually generate more revenue for the business. They decided to specifically associate with a pastor like Sam Adeyemi, a life coach, after attending his leadership seminar, and to leverage on his association with the ministry to increase their capacity. In fact, Elevation Church in Lekki was rumored to be one of his investors that invested about 500 million naira into the company with the promise of getting 10% return monthly. And some of their biggest investors turn out to be members of these churches as well. Within 5 years, their investors base has moved from 30 investors to about 900,000 investors radically, and money started rushing in like water. And to live up to the expectation of the public, they decided to move from where they are staying to a very prestigious neighborhood in Lagos where a lot of billionaires and multi-millionaires stay in Nigeria. They bought a duplex at that particular location and actually paid with cash. They decided to buy houses in UK, in Dubai to reflect their new status as billionaires. They started going on vacations to luxurious countries, showcasing expensive hotels, business class travel, designer outfits, and exotic tourist location. In fact, in one of their luxurious travels, they decided to buy a citizen passport of a particular country worth about $50,000 of Antigua and Barbuda. And they claim that they are now expanding to countries like the UK, the US, Dubai, China, South Africa, and Ghana. And these offices set up in these countries are meant to attend to only Nigerians in diaspora, so that those people can also invest and can get about 10% return on investment every single month, the same thing they promised to Nigerians in Nigeria. In fact, they became very generous to the church in Nigeria. They will report that they never defaulted in payment of tithes, offerings, and even donations to the church. And they even served as local workers in the church as well. This type of lifestyle branding created a psychological confirmation for investors that if they are living this well and still paying our returns, business must be doing great. And during this period, they made sure that they were consistent in paying all their investors. In fact, they never missed a single month of 10% of every investment throughout. But in August 2021, they didn't pay any investors a return on their investment. And people were worried, not necessarily because they didn't get any return, but because since 5 years the company was operating, it has never happened before. Even during COVID-19 lockdown, people were still getting paid monthly. And when the delay started piling up, investors decided getting worried. And not just ordinary investors, multinational banks, fintech companies decided to call an emergency investor general meeting to kind of address what is happening and why they are getting delay in payment of returns. In the meeting, they called out the management of this particular company. They have to be accountable and tell them where they are investing all their money into and why they are experiencing a lot of delays in payment for the past few months. And the couple insisted that the missed payment was a blip and that things will quickly return to normal by September the following month. And for the first time, investors suspected that something was terribly wrong, but decided to put their trust in the couple since they assured them that things will return to normal in the coming months. Eventually, September came and money was not paid as well. And they called another meeting and decided to reduce the 10% return of investment every month to about 7% return as a result of the economic downturn, in order for people to still get their money and capital every single month as promised by the founders of the company. And on 2nd of November, the next month again, they didn't get any payment, whether 10% or 7% return on investment as agreed the previous month. And so one of the aggrieved investors who had invested millions of dollars in this particular company decided to report this matter to the police and actually took the police to their residence to arrest these couples, and so that they can give an explanation on why they are seeing a delay in payment and what is happening in the company. But when they got to their residence, they could not breach their gate despite several attempts, and this gave them heads up to make a move. They took off very early the next morning and disappeared out of the country. You see, what was happening was that the company was not generating sufficient revenue to pay investors 10% what they promised them before. And so what they resorted to do was that they started paying old investors from new investment of new investors, which is a typical plot of a Ponzi scheme. Immediately, investors didn't know their whereabouts anymore. They decided to report to the EFCC about suspicion of fraud. And EFCC decided to investigate the matter and execute an arrest warrant against them. And once they discovered that they have fled the country, they contacted Interpol to help locate them wherever they are hiding in the world. Finally, in March 2023, 2 years after, the man was actually arrested in Côte d'Ivoire after attempting to board a flight to take him to UK, and he was extradited to Nigeria, where he was going to face the law of an allegation of fraud worth billions of dollars. And because the court believed that if he was given bail, he would run away. They gave him bail on a condition that it was almost impossible for him to meet, and so he was actually kept in police custody. Few months later, when he discovered that there was nowhere to run, he said to write to the Attorney General of the Federation in Nigeria and told him that he was ready to settle out of court and is going to pay 5 billion naira to all his investors and tell them sorry that he made a mistake in their investment. Presently, his wife is still at large and nowhere to be found, and the Interpol are still looking for her. What do you think about this particular case? Do you think that the company started well and they ended badly, or do you think that they played into the greed of Nigerians and they were able to embezzle a lot of money? Let's see what you think in the comment below. Make sure you like this video, click on the notification button, make sure you subscribe to the channel. It will really do a lot on this channel. I will see you in the next one.